Welcome to Japanese Sleep Whispers, your sanctuary for peaceful nights and gentle dreams. Here, you will find calming bedtime stories inspired by the timeless beauty and traditions of Japan. Each story is read slowly in a soothing voice, accompanied by natural sounds such as flowing rivers and the tranquil rhythm of shishi-odoshi. Whether you seek relaxation, relief from stress, or help falling asleep, these tales invite you to drift away into a world of serenity. Imagine quiet temples, moonlit gardens, and the whispering bamboo forests as you listen. If you'd like these soothing stories to be part of your nightly routine, consider subscribing so they're always with you when you need them. Subscribe and let these stories be your nightly ritual of calm and rest. Thank you for being here. May you always find peace in every moment. Whispers of the Hidden Grove. Prologue: The Silent Grove. The villagers spoke of it in hushed voices, as though the forest itself might overhear. At the edge of the mountains, where bamboo rose like green spears and the wind carried the fragrance of pine, there lay a grove few dared to enter. It was not marked on maps, nor was it spoken of openly. But every child grew up with the same warning: do not linger there at dusk, lest the whispers follow you home. Legends wrapped around the hidden grove like morning mist. Some said that it was where the spirits of ancestors gathered, their voices caught forever in the sigh of the wind. Others whispered of foxes with burning eyes, or lanterns that floated of their own accord among the trees. Yet some believed it was a place of blessing, that harmony and peace could be found if one dared to walk its paths with a pure heart. Aiko had heard these stories since childhood, though never with much belief. She had been a curious girl once, wandering fields and rivers, but time had carved its grooves into her life like water over stone. Her grandmother, the one person who had always taught her patience and kindness, had passed away the previous winter. Since then, silence clung to Aiko's home, heavy and suffocating. On the evening the story begins, she stood at the threshold of that silence, staring toward the distant line of forest. The sun was setting, staining the horizon in hues of amber and crimson. Something about the light, about the way the wind bent the tall grasses, stirred within her a memory she could not name. The grove was calling. Aiko adjusted the strap of the woven basket she carried. She had set out merely to gather herbs near the riverbank, yet her feet betrayed her, leading her not toward the village path but toward the shadowed slope of the mountain. Each step felt both foreign and inevitable, as if she had been summoned by an unseen hand. At the edge of the forest, cicadas sang their final song of the season. The air cooled, and in the spaces between their shrill notes, Aiko thought she heard something else: soft, layered voices, overlapping like ripples on water. She froze. The whispers were not threatening, but neither were they the rustle of mere leaves. They spoke in tones she could not quite decipher, carrying both sorrow and gentleness. Her grandmother's words echoed in memory: listen not only with your ears, Aiko. Listen with your heart, and even silence will speak. With a breath that trembled between fear and yearning, Aiko stepped into the hidden grove. Chapter 1: The Path of Falling Leaves. The first thing she noticed was the stillness. Though the trees swayed, their movement made no sound. The grove seemed wrapped in a veil that softened every rustle, every footfall, until the world felt distant and muffled. Aiko moved slowly, her hand brushing the rough bark of a cedar. The trunks stretched upward like pillars, their crowns woven into a canopy that filtered the twilight into fractured rays of gold. The air smelled of damp earth, of moss and pine needles. She followed no trail, and yet her feet found a path. It wound upward between stones and roots, guiding her deeper. The forest seemed alive with presence, though she saw no one. Each breath brought with it the faintest murmur of voices, sometimes like laughter, sometimes like sighs. As she climbed, she noticed the leaves. Maple trees flared around her, their autumn colors burning crimson and ochre. The wind stirred, and dozens of leaves detached at once, fluttering downward. But instead of touching the ground, they hovered, suspended in the air. Aiko blinked in astonishment. The leaves drifted toward her, circling slowly as if caught in an unseen current. Then, as she exhaled, they fell all at once, landing softly around her feet. She bent to pick one up. Its surface was warm to the touch, though the air was cool. She pressed it to her chest, uncertain whether she felt comforted or watched. A voice interrupted her thoughts. "You listened." Aiko turned sharply. An old man stood a few paces ahead, leaning on a staff of twisted wood. His robe was simple, the gray of river stones, and his face was lined like the rings of an ancient tree. His eyes, however, were bright, reflecting the last light of the sun. "Who are you?" Aiko asked, wary yet drawn by the calm in his voice. "Merely a passerby," the man replied. "Like you. The grove has called, and so you came." I didn't mean to," she said quickly. "I was only walking. There are no accidents here," the man said, his lips curving into a faint smile. He raised his staff and pointed to the drifting leaves around them. "The grove does not reveal itself to those who hurry, or to those who seek only to take. It opens to those who are willing to pause, to listen." Aiko felt a flush rise to her cheeks. "Then why me?" The old man studied her silently for a long moment. "Because you carry silence within you. A silence heavy with sorrow. The grove wishes to teach you another kind." She looked away, her throat tightening. He could not know, and yet he did. Since her grandmother's death, she had been unable to fill the hollow space inside her. Words had failed, prayers had felt empty. Even the songs she once hummed while weaving baskets had fallen silent. "How can silence teach?" she whispered. The old man tapped his staff gently against a rock. The sound rang out, clear and bright, echoing through the grove. Then, as the sound faded, the silence returned, not heavy this time, but profound, like the stillness after a bell. "Silence is not the absence of sound," he said. It is the space where harmony may grow. You will understand if you walk further. Before Aiko could speak again, the man bowed slightly, turned, and stepped into the deepening shadows. Within moments, he was gone, leaving no sign that he had ever been there. The grove darkened as dusk deepened. Lanterns of fireflies began to glow among the trees, flickering like tiny stars. Aiko stood alone on the path of falling leaves, the old man's words echoing in her mind. Her heart was heavy, yet something within her stirred an ember of curiosity, of hope. She took a step forward, and the whispers of the grove followed, gentle and patient, as though urging her onward. Chapter 2: The River's Song. The path narrowed as Aiko descended a slope, the sound of water reaching her ears. Unlike the muted silence of the grove, the river's voice was vivid, threading through the stillness like silver. She quickened her pace, drawn toward its song. When she emerged from the trees, the sight stilled her breath. A stream wound through the grove, its waters illuminated by the rising moon. The surface shimmered as if sprinkled with countless stars, though no clouds moved above. Kneeling at the bank, Aiko dipped her hand into the current. The water was cool, flowing around her fingers with gentle insistence. But as it flowed, it carried whispers clearer now than any she had heard before. Daughter-child, remember. The voices overlapped, soft and fleeting. She pulled back in alarm, her heart pounding. Yet the sound did not fade. Instead, it deepened, carrying the weight of countless generations. "Are you spirits?" she asked aloud, though no answer came in words. The river only continued its song, a chorus that seemed to weave sorrow and comfort into one. As she listened, a memory surfaced, her grandmother's hand guiding hers when she was small, showing her how to fold a lotus flower from paper. They had sat beside the village river then, listening to the water's steady rhythm. "The river remembers," her grandmother had said. "It carries stories older than ours. If you listen, you may hear what was once lost." Tears welled in Aiko's eyes. The ache in her chest, long sealed, began to loosen. Then, movement stirred beneath the water. From the shimmering current rose a koi fish, its scales gleaming gold and white. It swam against the flow, unyielding. When it surfaced near her hand, its dark eyes met hers with uncanny stillness. "Are you guiding me?" she whispered. The koi flicked its tail, circling once before gliding upstream. It paused, glancing back, as if beckoning. Aiko hesitated only a moment before rising to follow. Her sandals pressed into the damp earth as she traced the river bank. Each step echoed with the rhythm of rushing water, and each glance at the koi filled her with quiet courage. The path curved beneath a canopy of willows, their branches trailing like veils into the stream. Moonlight spilled through the leaves, painting silver patterns on the ground. Here, the whispers grew softer, but they harmonized with the river's voice until it seemed less like speech and more like music. When Aiko stopped to rest, the koi lingered, hovering in the current. She sat upon a smooth stone, listening. For the first time since her grandmother's passing, the silence within her did not feel like emptiness, it felt like space, waiting to be filled. She closed her eyes, and the river sang. The koi swam steadily upstream, its fins shimmering like threads of moonlight. Aiko followed, stepping carefully across slick stones, her reflection fractured by ripples. Though she did not know why she trusted the creature, its presence filled her with quiet assurance. At a bend in the river, the current slowed into a pool. Here, the surface grew unnaturally still, reflecting the sky like a polished mirror. The koi circled once, then vanished beneath the water, leaving Aiko alone with her reflection. But it was not her face she saw. The image wavered, and the lines softened into features she knew by heart, her grandmother's. The old woman's smile was gentle, her eyes crinkled at the corners as they always had when telling stories. Aiko's breath caught. Grandmother? The reflection's lips moved, though the voice came not through the air but through the water itself, resonating like an echo within her chest. Child, why do you carry sorrow as if it were a burden alone? Tears welled in Aiko's eyes. Because you left me. I don't know how to go on without you. The river trembled softly, yet the reflection did not vanish. I have not left. I flow in every memory, in every silence that holds you. You mistake stillness for emptiness, but stillness is where harmony is born. But how'd I live with the silence? Aiko whispered. The image of her grandmother leaned closer, her voice merging with the river's steady song. Do not fight it. Let it breathe with you. Silence is not loneliness, it is the pause that gives meaning to sound. The grove teaches this. Will you listen? Aiko pressed her hands together, her shoulders trembling. I will try. The reflection softened, dissolving into ripples that spread across the pool. When the water cleared again, it showed only her own face, pale and tear-streaked beneath the moonlight. A gentle splash drew her gaze. The koi had returned, circling once more before slipping downstream. Its task was done. Aiko lingered a moment longer, then rose, feeling lighter though her eyes still burned. The river had sung to her, and in its song she had heard both grief and comfort. For the first time since winter, her chest did not ache with silence, it hummed with the possibility of harmony. With a steady breath, she left the pool behind and followed the path deeper into the hidden grove. Chapter 3 Lanterns in the Mist. Night thickened as Aiko walked, the air cooling with each step. A pale mist coiled between the trunks, veiling the path in shifting ribbons. The whispers of the grove grew softer, as though hushed by the rising fog. Then, ahead, a faint glow appeared. Aiko slowed, her heart quickening. One by one, lanterns flickered into being delicate orbs of warm light floating in the mist. No hands held them, no ropes tethered them. They drifted at different heights, swaying as if carried by invisible currents. Aiko's breath caught. She reached toward one, but it slid away like a firefly, hovering just beyond reach. More and more appeared until the grove shimmered with a constellation of lanterns. The mist turned golden, and within its shadows moved tall and short, graceful and bent. Figures emerged, translucent as water, their forms woven of memory. Spirits. Aiko froze, her instinct to retreat. Yet the figures were not menacing. They moved with quiet dignity, some bowing their heads, others clasping hands as though in prayer. A few carried instruments that emitted no sound, yet their movements suggested music. The lanterns bobbed in rhythm, like dancers keeping time. She realized, with wonder, that this was no mourning procession. It was a gathering, part grief, part celebration. The dead had come not to haunt, but to honor the harmony between silence and sound. Aiko stepped cautiously into their midst. The mist parted to make way, and the spirits did not turn in anger. Instead, one figure extended an arm, beckoning her into a slow, graceful dance. Hesitant, she raised her hands. Her body remembered what her heart had forgotten, steps her grandmother once taught her during festivals. The movement was simple, swaying and turning, but as she joined, the lanterns brightened. The grove glowed with warmth, the mist dissolving into golden light. Though no music reached her ears, her heart heard it clearly: the river's song, the whispers of leaves, the echo of her grandmother's voice. All of it wove together into a harmony beyond words. For a moment, grief did not vanish, but it softened. Aiko realized that sorrow and joy did not cancel each other, they intertwined, giving depth to the dance. Her tears fell freely, yet her lips curved into a trembling smile. As the dance slowed, the spirits began to fade, lanterns dimming one by one until only the mist remained. The final glow lingered at the edge of the path, pulsing gently as though urging her onward. Aiko bowed deeply, gratitude welling within her. When she looked up, she stood alone once more in the quiet grove, the mist thinning beneath the gaze of the moon. But her heart was no longer hollow. It carried a rhythm, a song that whispered of harmony. Chapter 4: The Keeper of Pines. The path narrowed as the grove thickened, tall pines rising like sentinels. Their trunks were dark against the pale glow of the moon, their needles whispering faintly, though no wind stirred. Aiko felt the air shift heavier, watchful, as though the trees themselves were guardians. She walked carefully, each footstep muffled by layers of fallen needles. The silence was not empty, it pressed close, resonant with unseen presence. Her breath clouded faintly, though the night was not cold. At the center of a clearing, she stopped. A shape stood among the pines, a white fox, its fur luminous as snow beneath the moon. Its eyes glowed amber, sharp yet calm, watching her with uncanny intelligence. Aiko froze, unsure whether to bow or flee. The fox tilted its head, and when it spoke, the voice did not come from its mouth but from the air itself, weaving through the trees. "You walk deeper than most," child of sorrow. Do you seek the grove's heart, or do you wander only to flee what lies within? Aiko swallowed. I don't know. The grove called me. I only followed. The fox's eyes narrowed, though not unkindly. Few admit uncertainty. Most demand answers. Yet harmony is not found in certainty, it is found in balance. It circled her slowly, paused soundless on the forest floor. You carry grief. You fear its weight will crush you. But tell me, do you wish to cast it away, or to understand it? The question struck her. She had long wished for her sorrow to vanish, to wake one morning free of the ache. Yet when she imagined losing even the pain, she felt her grandmother's memory fading with it. I don't want to forget her, Aiko whispered. But I don't know how to live with both love and loss. The fox paused before her, amber eyes burning softly. That is the lesson of Wa. Harmony is not the absence of discord. It is the weaving of contrasts, joy with sorrow, silence with sound, shadow with light. Aiko bowed her head. Then how'd I learn this? The fox raised its muzzle, the wind stirring suddenly through the pines. Needles whispered like 1,000 voices. Do not run from grief. Do not cling to it as a chain. Carry it as a thread, woven into your being. In time, it will not bind you, it will strengthen you. Aiko lifted her gaze, tears pricking her eyes. And if I fail? The fox's gaze softened. The grove does not demand perfection. Only honesty. Walk onward. Listen. You will come to understand. With that, the fox turned. Its form shimmered, fading into the pines until only moonlight remained. Yet Aiko felt its presence linger, watching, guiding from the shadows. She stood alone, but her heart beat with new steadiness. She did not yet understand harmony fully, but she knew she wished to try. Gathering her courage, Aiko stepped forward into the forest once more. Chapter 5: Echoes of the Past. That night, exhaustion overcame her. Beneath a great cedar, she lay upon a bed of moss, the grove's whispers lulling her into sleep. The silence no longer weighed heavy, it cradled her gently, as though the forest itself wished her rest. Dreams came swiftly. She found herself once more by the river of her childhood, sunlight glinting on the water. Her grandmother sat beside her, weaving reeds into a small basket. "Aiko," the old woman said, her voice warm and steady, "why do you frown so?" In the dream, Aiko was both child and woman, her grief bleeding into the memory. "Because you left me. Because I can't be strong without you." Her grandmother looked up, her smile tender. "Child, strength is not the absence of tears. It is the courage to let them fall, and still continue walking." The river shimmered, reflecting more than water. In its surface, Aiko saw herself not only weeping, but laughing, tending her garden, speaking with neighbors, living. Each reflection carried sorrow, yet none were broken. "See," her grandmother whispered, "the river does not deny the stones it flows over. It embraces them, shapes them, and continues on. So too must you." Grief will change its shape, but it will not destroy you. Aiko reached for her grandmother's hand, but the image dissolved into mist. The dream shifted. She now stood within the grove itself. The trees towered higher, their branches quivering though no storm stirred. The forest reflected her emotions when she trembled with fear, the trunks shuddered when she breathed with calm, the leaves settled. Realization struck the grove mirrored her inner state, amplifying her silence, her turmoil, her fleeting peace. It was not merely a place she walked through. It was her heart made manifest. A voice her grandmother's, or perhaps the grove's whispered through the tree's harmony begins within. Do not demand silence to be empty. Let it echo with your truth. Aiko woke with tears on her cheeks. The cedar branches above swayed gently, as if acknowledging her dream. For the first time, she did not feel crushed by her grief. Instead, she felt seen by the grove, by her grandmother's memory, by herself. Rising to her feet, she placed a hand upon the cedar's trunk. "I will listen," she whispered. "To you, to her, to myself." And as she spoke, the grove answered with a whisper softer than wind, carrying her words into its endless harmony. Chapter 6: The Bridge of Silence. The grove guided Aiko deeper, though no visible path stretched before her. She walked as though led by the rhythm of her own heartbeat, each step in time with the forest's breath. At last, the trees opened to reveal a vast ravine, its depths swallowed in shadow. Spanning the gap was a bridge of wood, weathered and narrow, its ropes creaking softly in the stillness. Mist rose from below, veiling whatever lay hidden in the darkness. Aiko hesitated at its edge. The planks swayed gently with the night wind, and each creak sounded like a warning. But what unsettled her most was the silence. Here, the grove's whispers were absent. It was as if the forest itself held its breath. She stepped onto the bridge. The wood groaned beneath her weight, and the ravine seemed to yawn wider, pulling at her with unseen hands. Halfway across, her chest tightened. Suddenly, the silence broke not with voices from the grove, but with her own. "You should have done more." The words rang sharp, though she had not spoken them aloud. They were her thoughts, echoes she had carried for months. You could have stayed by her side longer. You could have saved her. Each step forward summoned another accusation. The bridge trembled, ropes straining. You failed her. Aiko dropped to her knees, clutching the ropes. The shadows below surged upward, writhing like smoke, feeding on her guilt. Her breath came ragged. Tears blurred her vision. "I tried," she whispered. "I did everything I could." But the shadows hissed back, "Not enough." The bridge swayed violently. She closed her eyes, trembling. Then, faint as a breeze, another whisper stirred not from within, but from the grove itself. "Forgive." Her eyes flew open. The word was simple, yet it rang through her chest like a bell. She clung to it, repeating aloud, "Forgive, forgive." The shadows recoiled. The ropes steadied. Her tears fell freely as she rose to her feet. "I forgive myself," she whispered, though the words shook. "I forgive the helplessness. I forgive the silence. I forgive." Step by step, the bridge grew steadier beneath her. The shadows sank back into the ravine. When she reached the other side, the silence no longer suffocated. It felt open, vast, a silence that welcomed her. Behind her, the bridge stilled. Ahead, the path glimmered faintly with moonlight. Aiko breathed deeply. For the first time, she felt a fragment of peace. Chapter 7: The Blossom That Waited. The forest changed as she walked onward. The scent of pine gave way to sweetness, and the air warmed as though spring itself had entered the grove. A clearing opened before her, and in its center stood a single cherry tree. Its branches were bare, save for one blossom pale pink, trembling in the night air. Aiko approached slowly, awe softening her steps. The tree radiated quiet patience, as if it had waited countless seasons for this very moment. She reached out. The single blossom glowed faintly, and when her fingertips brushed its petal, the entire tree shivered. Then, in a rush like rainfall, blossoms unfurled across every branch. Petal after petal burst open, until the tree blazed with pale pink and white beneath the moon. The clearing filled with fragrance, soft and pure. A breeze stirred, lifting petals into the air. They swirled around Aiko, settling upon her hair, her shoulders, her open hands. She laughed softly, the sound breaking free like water after a long freeze. In that laughter, sorrow did not vanish. It remained quiet and deep. But now it mingled with joy, like two notes joined in harmony. She remembered her grandmother's words, "The river does not deny the stones it flows over." The cherry tree stood as proof. Years of waiting, of silence, had not been wasted. They had prepared it for this moment of bloom. Aiko pressed her palms together, bowing deeply to the tree. "Thank you," she whispered. As if in response, a shower of petals rained gently down, covering the ground in pale light. When she stepped onward, the path seemed brighter. The grove no longer felt like a place of shadows. It was alive, breathing with both memory and renewal. And Aiko walked with it, her heart lighter than before. Chapter 8: Whispers Become Song. The grove no longer felt fragmented. Every step Aiko took resonated with an unseen rhythm, as though the earth, the trees, and even the air had attuned themselves to her breath. The whispers that once drifted like fragments of forgotten speech now gathered, weaving into something whole. She paused beneath an arch of interwoven branches. The sound rose gently at first like the distant murmur of a stream, then swelled into harmony. It was not a single voice, but countless: the sigh of pines, the rustle of bamboo, the cry of unseen birds, the faint rush of water. Each blended seamlessly until the grove itself sang. Aiko stood still, trembling with awe. The song did not overwhelm, it unfolded, surrounding her with a warmth she had not thought silence capable of holding. She closed her eyes. Within the song, she heard her grandmother's laughter, her neighbors' voices, her own childhood humming. All the fragments of her life, even her grief, had found a place here. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but they were not heavy. They fell as freely as petals, joining the harmony. The fox's words returned to her harmony as the weaving of contrasts. She understood now. The grove had never sought to erase sorrow. It had invited her to carry it differently, not as a weight, but as part of the whole. Sorrow and joy, silence and sound, death and life, they were not enemies, but threads of the same fabric. The forest brightened, lanterns of light blooming among the branches. The path before her shimmered, golden and clear. For the first time, Aiko did not fear where it would lead. She walked forward, and the grove's song walked with her. Epilogue harmony in all things. When Aiko returned to her village, dawn was breaking. The mountains glowed rose and gold, and the river reflected the new day. She carried no lantern, no token, yet the villagers who glanced at her paused. Something about her presence felt changed, calmer, steadier, as if she carried the grove's song within her. In the days that followed, she tended a small garden behind her home. She planted pine, bamboo, and plum, the three friends of winter, symbols of endurance, resilience, and renewal. When spring came, she added a cherry sapling, its blossoms pale and hopeful. Neighbors came often, some in silence, some to speak of their own losses. Aiko did not always answer with words. Sometimes she simply listened, sometimes she guided them to sit among the trees, to breathe with the wind. Slowly, the garden became a place of gathering, as the grove had been a place where silence was not emptiness, but presence. At night, when the wind moved through the branches, Aiko sometimes closed her eyes. In the hush between the rustling leaves, she still heard the whispers. But now, they were not fragmented. They rose and fell like music, like a song she knew by heart. Her grandmother's voice was among them, not as memory alone but as harmony woven into the whole. Aiko smiled softly, bowing her head. "I hear you." And the garden, like the grove, answered in silence, alive, breathing, whole. The whispers had become a song, and Aiko carried it within her forever. Lanterns along the bamboo stream. Prologue: the silent stream. The village of Kawara was known for its bamboo. Tall stalks swayed like emerald spears, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. Through the heart of this grove ran a stream so clear that stones beneath shimmered as though polished by centuries of silence. The villagers called it the bamboo stream. To most, it was simply a place of beauty and rest, where farmers washed their tools and children played in summer. Yet, on nights when the moon shone fullest, old stories told of something more. Lanterns, hundreds of them, would appear upon the water, glowing softly as they drifted downstream. No villager claimed to have set them afloat. Some said they were offerings from ancestors, carrying messages between worlds. Others believed they were born of the bamboo itself, flames nurtured by the grove's spirit. Ren had heard these stories since boyhood. His master, a calligrapher of great renown, once told him, "The bamboo stream is like ink. It flows without hesitation, and in it, truth appears." But Ren had not visited the stream for years. His master had passed away that spring, leaving behind silence heavier than any he had known. Ink no longer obeyed him. His brush faltered, his lines broke, his heart no longer steady enough to guide his hand. On the evening this tale begins, Ren walked alone into the bamboo grove. The air was thick with summer's warmth, but the stream ran cool, glistening beneath twilight. Crickets sang faintly, and the stalks swayed in rhythm. He paused at the bank, listening. The water moved gently, a sound between a sigh and a song. For a moment, Ren thought he heard another sound within it, faint, delicate, like the flicker of a flame. And then he saw it. A single lantern drifted along the current, its paper walls glowing with golden light. No villager was near, no festival had been declared. The lantern seemed to move with intent, its flame unshaken by the breeze. Ren's breath caught. His master's words returned to him. Ink must flow like water, steady yet alive. The lantern glided past, and Ren, unable to stop himself, stepped onto the stream's path, following where it might lead. Chapter 1: The First Lantern. The lantern's glow painted the water in ripples of gold. Ren trailed it at a distance, his sandals brushing against moss and stone. The bamboo loomed overhead, their tall frames bending as if bowing toward the drifting flame. He found himself wondering who had placed it there. A hidden villager? A wandering spirit? The lantern did not answer, yet its flame flickered as though acknowledging his question. The stream curved, narrowing into a channel where water rushed more swiftly. The lantern floated without hesitation, its flame steady, its paper untouched by the current. Ren quickened his pace, nearly stumbling over roots that reached across the bank. At one bend, he knelt to catch his breath. The stream's surface reflected his face, tired, lined with frustration. He saw not the calligrapher his master had once praised, but a man lost in silence. His reflection wavered, and for a heartbeat, it was not his own face he saw but his master's, gazing back with calm eyes. Ren gasped, leaning closer. The image rippled away. Only the lantern remained, gliding forward, patient as time. He rose again, following. The further he walked, the quieter the grove grew. Cicadas hushed, birds fell still, even the bamboo seemed to hold its breath. Only the stream spoke, its voice mingling with the lantern's faint whisper. At last, the lantern drifted into a widening pool where the current slowed. It circled once, then settled near the bank where Ren stood. Cautiously, he reached for it. The paper was warm, though no fire burned within. The glow pulsed softly against his palm, as though alive. And then he heard it, a voice, faint as the brush of ink across parchment. "Do not force the line, Ren. Let it breathe." His heart lurched. that voice his master's. He tightened his grip, his breath ragged. "Master? Is it you?" The flame flickered once, as if in answer, before stilling again. Ren sank to his knees, the lantern cradled in his hands. He had longed for words, for guidance, for one final lesson. And now, in the silence of the bamboo stream, it seemed the lesson had come. Not in scrolls, not in ink, but in light. The lantern floated gently from his hands, drifting once more into the current. Ren rose, his eyes fixed on its glow. Without hesitation, he followed. Chapter 2: Reflections in Water. The lantern drifted ahead, and Ren followed, his steps careful on the mossy bank. The stream widened, becoming shallow and slow, revealing smooth stones beneath its surface. Moonlight touched the water, casting a silver path that seemed to merge with the lantern's golden glow. Ren knelt, resting his hands upon the stream's edge. The water rippled, reflecting not only the lantern but fragments of his past. He saw himself as a boy, struggling to hold the brush, ink spilling across the paper. He saw his master's patient eyes, correcting and guiding, and then the memory of the master's passing alone, silent and unfinished. The lantern floated close, as if urging him to look deeper. Ren's reflection changed again. Now he saw himself older, his hands stiff with doubt, ink lines breaking mid-stroke. He felt the old ache, the fear that he would never create beauty again. The water whispered, "Soft and unyielding perfection is not the measure of harmony." Ren closed his eyes, letting the stream's voice wash over him. The lantern's light flickered, casting patterns on the stones like dancing ink. Slowly, he understood it was not about flawless strokes, but about breath, motion, and acceptance. The river did not judge the stones it flowed over, it shaped them gently, over time. He dipped his hand into the water, watching it ripple outward. In that motion, he felt the first stirrings of peace. His sorrow remained, but now it carried the weight of living, not of failing. The lantern floated on, and he rose, following the echo of the water's lesson moving through him. Chapter 3: Bamboo in the Wind. The grove thickened, bamboo stalks rising taller, closer together. Their leaves rustled faintly, like whispered voices in a quiet hall. Ren walked beneath them, sensing the grove's presence not just around him but within him. An old monk appeared by the stream, tending the bamboo carefully. His robes were simple, his face lined with age, yet his eyes held a quiet vitality. "You follow the lantern," the monk said, his voice soft but clear. "Why do you seek it?" Ren hesitated. "I do not know. It called me, and perhaps I wish to learn." The monk nodded, gesturing to the bamboo. "Look at these stalks. They bend with the wind, yet they do not break. They yield, they endure, they rise again. So must the heart. Harmony is found not in resisting life, but in flowing with it." Ren watched the bamboo sway. He felt a kinship with them, resilient yet flexible, standing despite storms, reaching for light even after shadow. The monk handed him a thin bamboo brush, its tip smooth and firm. Write upon the water, if you wish. Let the ink flow. Do not fear imperfection, for the stream will carry your intention. Ren knelt by the stream, ink and brush in hand. The lantern's glow reflected upon the water, turning the current into a canvas. He traced a line, tentative at first, then freer, following the movement of the water, the rhythm of the grove, the guidance of his own breath. When he looked up, the lantern had drifted further down the stream, and dozens more appeared behind its small flames glowing among the bamboo. Ren realized that the grove's lesson was unfolding harmony required trust, patience, and openness. He breathed deeply. For the first time in months, his heart felt aligned with the world around him. And as the lanterns drifted along the stream, the bamboo whispered their approval, soft and enduring, like a song without end. Chapter 4 Festival of Lanterns. Night fell, and the grove transformed. Hundreds of lanterns began to drift along the bamboo stream, their soft light reflecting in the water like stars fallen to earth. The lanterns moved in rhythm with the stream, as if carried by an unseen hand, weaving patterns of gold and amber beneath the swaying bamboo. Ren walked along the bank, mesmerized. The lanterns seemed to speak, whispering in a language he could not understand, yet every pulse of their light resonated within him. The water carried their glow downstream, where it mingled with the moonlight, creating a tapestry of motion and reflection. Villagers appeared, silently placing lanterns upon the water's surface. Some wrote prayers, others names, some simply whispered into the night before letting the flames drift away. Though no one spoke to him, Ren felt welcomed. The grove had invited him into its quiet celebration. He knelt by the stream, dipping a blank lantern into his hands. Closing his eyes, he whispered a prayer for his master, for his own fears, for all the ink that had failed him. Then he set the lantern afloat. The flame flickered once, then steadied, gliding into the stream's current, joining the dance of countless others. The grove seemed to sigh in contentment. Lanterns swirled and twirled, rising and falling with the rhythm of the water. Ren watched, feeling a gentle harmony settle within his chest. The whispers of the bamboo, the laughter of the unseen villagers, and the song of the stream merged into one, a melody of remembrance and renewal. For the first time, Ren felt a bridge between past and present, sorrow and joy, human and nature. The Festival of Lanterns was not merely an event, it was the grove itself, teaching him the meaning of harmony. Chapter 5 The White Crane. As the lanterns drifted on, a sudden movement caught Ren's eye. A white crane stepped gracefully from the reeds at the edge of the stream, its feathers luminous in the lantern light. It regarded him with calm, knowing eyes, then lifted into the air, gliding silently along the stream. Ren followed the crane, instinctively keeping pace. The bird's flight led him to a secluded part of the grove where the bamboo thinned, revealing a hidden shrine nestled beside the water. The shrine was simple, wooden, and moss-covered, yet it radiated peace. The crane alighted on the roof, observing Ren as though waiting for his understanding. He knelt before the shrine, noticing inscriptions worn by time. The words spoke of gratitude, patience, and balance, virtues he had studied but never fully embraced. For the first time, he felt the weight of his past anxieties begin to lift. The crane circled once and alighted near the shrine's entrance. Its presence was serene, unhurried, yet commanding. Ren realized it was more than a bird, it was a symbol, a messenger of longevity, clarity, and harmony. He bowed deeply, letting the water's reflection and the crane's gaze merge with his own thoughts. In that quiet moment, he understood that harmony was not only in the bamboo, the stream, or the lanterns, but also in his own mind and heart. The crane took flight again, disappearing into the night sky. Ren remained by the shrine, feeling a calm he had never known, ready to continue his journey with the lessons of the grove etched into his being. Chapter 6: The Brush of Shadows. As Ren followed the bamboo stream deeper into the grove, the lantern's glow dimmed, and the night grew heavier. Mist rose from the water, curling around bamboo stalks and stones, creating shifting shapes that seemed almost alive. A shadow moved across the stream, a darkness that was not the night itself. It rose from the water, curling like smoke, and formed shapes reminiscent of his own fears, failed brushstrokes, broken ink, his master's disappointment. Ren froze. I cannot face this," he whispered. The shadow pressed closer, whispering accusations he had long buried. "You are inadequate, you will never create, you are not worthy." His heart pounded, and he felt his knees weaken. Yet a small voice within reminded him of the lanterns, the crane, and the festival. Harmony was not perfection. Harmony was acceptance. With trembling hands, he dipped his brush into a small puddle by the stream. "If you are ink, then I will write with you," he said aloud. The shadow recoiled slightly. Ren traced his strokes across a piece of wet bamboo bark. Lines flowed, faltered, and broke, yet each stroke seemed alive. The darkness did not vanish but joined the motion, weaving into the ink, forming patterns of shadow and light. Slowly, the shadow softened, melting back into the mist. Ren lowered his brush, breath steadying. He realized that the darkness had not been his enemy, it had been part of his art, part of his heart. To deny it would have been to deny himself. The bamboo stream shimmered with reflected lantern light, and for the first time, he felt truly aligned with both ink and shadow. Harmony had been found not in avoidance, but in integration. Chapter 7: Lanterns Become Stars. Night reached its zenith. The stream widened into a quiet lake, and the hundreds of lanterns floated freely, creating a river of gold upon the water. Ren stood at the edge, gazing at their reflection. The lanterns began to rise. One by one, they lifted from the water, floating upward into the night sky. Their glow mingled with the stars, blurring the line between heaven and earth. Ren watched, awestruck, as the sky seemed to respond. Each lantern carried a prayer, a memory, a fragment of life, yet together, they formed a luminous tapestry of harmony. He felt the bamboo stream, the crane, and the grove itself within him. Ink would no longer be just lines on paper, it would carry the rhythm of life, the breath of water, the whispers of the lanterns. Ren took a brush from his satchel and dipped it in ink. He wrote on a sheet of paper, letting the words flow as freely as the stream. The strokes were imperfect, yet they sang. They were alive. Looking up, he saw lanterns now blending seamlessly with the stars, like constellations painted by unseen hands. Harmony was no longer a distant lesson, it was a living presence, flowing within him and all around him. For the first time, Ren understood. To create was to release, to let the stream carry both darkness and light together, allowing them to become part of something larger. And the grove sang with him, a song of bamboo, water, and lantern light, endless and whole. Chapter 8 Whispers become song. The bamboo stream flowed quietly beneath the lantern-lit sky. Ren stood at its edge, the cool water reflecting 1,000 points of light each lantern. Now part of a luminous dance, each shadow now integrated into the harmony of night. The grove itself seemed to breathe. Bamboo leaves rustled in gentle rhythm, the stream's water whispered, and the distant mountains held the moonlight like a guardian. All was alive, yet perfectly still. Ren closed his eyes. Within the silence, he heard everything: the flow of the stream, the soft pulse of lantern light, the distant song of the white crane, and the gentle rustle of bamboo. Together, these sounds formed a melody, an unbroken harmony that carried memory, loss, joy, and renewal. He opened his eyes and saw his master's face in the reflection of the water, not as a ghost, but as a presence, as guidance, as life. Ink and water, shadow and light, sorrow and joy, all are threads of one song. Ren lifted his brush, tracing lines across a long sheet of paper. His strokes were free and living, imperfect yet radiant. The lanterns above seemed to respond, their glow intensifying with each motion. The grove sang with him, not in voice, but in resonance. Every ripple in the water, every sway of bamboo, every flicker of light became part of the melody. Ren's heart swelled. Harmony was no longer a lesson to learn, it was a truth to live. The whispers had become song. Epilogue: harmony of ink and water. When Ren returned to his village, dawn broke over the mountains. Light spilled across the river and fields, mingling with the scent of bamboo and earth. He carried no lantern, no token, yet his presence radiated the calm and balance he had found. In his small studio, Ren prepared ink and paper. His brush moved without hesitation, without fear. Lines flowed freely, carrying not only form but life, breathing with the rhythm of the stream, the lanterns, and the bamboo grove. Villagers came often, some seeking guidance, others simply drawn to the quiet strength in his presence. Ren listened, encouraged, and sometimes simply shared the space of ink and paper, letting the harmony of his creation touch their hearts. He planted bamboo behind his home, a small grove beside the stream, and a cherry tree at its center. Each season, blossoms returned. Lanterns were placed along the water during festivals, carrying prayers and gratitude, light mingling with reflection. At night, Ren sometimes closed his eyes beside the stream. The whispers returned, soft and constant. But now they were not fragments of sorrow or doubt, they were the song of life itself, endless and complete. He smiled, bowing to the water, the bamboo, the lanterns, and the stars. I hear you. I am part of you. You are part of me. And in the quiet, the world hummed with harmony. The path through the autumn mist. Prologue: the autumn mist. The mountain path wound gently through forests ablaze with autumn color. Red maple leaves fluttered to the ground like scattered sparks, while golden ginkgo leaves trembled in the cool breeze. A pale mist clung to the trees, curling around trunks and branches, softening the edges of the world. Hiro walked slowly along the path, his footsteps muffled by the carpet of fallen leaves. His breath formed small clouds in the crisp morning air. Each step seemed to echo in the stillness, yet the silence was not empty. It was as if the forest itself were breathing, inviting him to listen. For months, Hiro had wandered this region, searching for clarity. His father, a master painter, had passed the previous winter, leaving behind both grief and a sense of inadequacy. Hiro's brush had faltered since that day, his ink lines were hesitant, and his colors lacked the resonance his father had taught him to see. Legends whispered among the villagers spoke of the autumn mist path. Travelers who entered its forests said the path revealed more than scenery, it revealed truths about one's heart. Some found solace. Some found inspiration. Some, it was said, found the courage to forgive themselves. Hiro had come not for legend, but for necessity. The mist was thick now, curling around his ankles, rising to touch the lower branches. Each inhale carried the scent of damp earth, fallen leaves, and distant smoke from hidden hearths. The world felt both intimate and vast, as if each leaf, each shadow, each whisper of wind held meaning. He paused at the edge of a small clearing. The sunlight broke through the mist, illuminating a single leaf suspended in the air by the breeze. Hiro watched it twist and turn, golden red against the gray mist, and felt a pang in his chest. This moment, he thought, like my father's brushstroke, fleeting, fragile, but alive. And so he stepped forward, beginning the journey that would lead him through the autumn mist, along the path where silence, reflection, and the rhythm of nature awaited. Chapter 1: Footsteps in Silence. Hiro moved carefully along the winding trail, leaves crunching softly beneath his feet. The mist was thicker here, drifting between the tree trunks, curling around rocks, and hiding the edges of the path. Every step felt deliberate, as though the forest demanded his attention and presence. The world was muted. Sounds were softened: the call of a distant bird, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the trickle of a hidden stream. Even his own heartbeat seemed to slow in response. As he walked, Hiro noticed faint glimmers along the path. A cluster of leaves reflected sunlight with unusual brilliance, dewdrops trembling like tiny lanterns on their tips. He reached out to touch them. The mist clung to his fingers, cool and damp. The reflection of his hand in a small puddle seemed to ripple with more than water. It mirrored his thoughts, his doubts, and his grief. "Am I still a painter?" he asked himself silently. "Can I ever create like him again?" A gust of wind stirred the mist, and for a brief moment, Hiro thought he heard a whisper: "Do not hurry. Do not force." He paused, closing his eyes. The mist enveloped him completely, yet he did not feel trapped. It was not an obstacle, it was a companion, urging him to move mindfully, step by step. In the silence, he could feel the rhythm of the forest, the subtle sway of the trees, the faint pulse of the stream nearby. Further along the path, he noticed a small wooden bridge arching over a narrow creek. Its railings were worn smooth by years of travelers' hands, and moss crept along its beams. Hiro stepped onto it slowly, the sound of his footsteps muffled by the mist. Below, the water flowed gently, carrying reflections of red and gold leaves. The scene reminded him of his father's paintings, where each detail was deliberate, yet the whole felt alive. He leaned on the railing, letting his gaze follow the stream. In the water, the mist and leaves seemed to mingle into something like ink and color on paper, shapes shifting and blending, never fixed, always moving. Hiro whispered to himself, perhaps this path is not just to see, but to feel. As he resumed walking, the mist thickened, curling around him like silk. Every step became an act of presence. Every breath drew in the cool, earthy air. Every glance revealed subtle changes: the way the wind bent a branch, the shimmer of a spider's web, the faint rustle of animals hidden in the brush. By the time he reached a small clearing, Hiro realized he had been walking for hours, yet the forest felt timeless. The mist had softened not only the edges of the world but also the edges of his heart. The weight of grief and doubt had not disappeared, but it felt lighter, as if the forest itself was teaching him to carry it with care. At the center of the clearing stood an old tea house, abandoned yet dignified. Its wooden frame was weathered, but its presence was calm, almost welcoming. The sliding doors were slightly ajar, revealing a dim interior lit by the morning light filtering through paper windows. Hiro approached cautiously. Perhaps it was just a shelter, or maybe it was another part of the path's lesson. Either way, he felt drawn to enter, sensing that here, the autumn mist path would begin to speak more clearly to him. Chapter 2: The Old Tea House. The old tea house stood quietly at the clearing's center, its roof covered with fallen leaves and moss. The wood creaked softly as Hiro pushed the sliding door open. Inside, the air smelled faintly of aged timber and tea leaves that had long been steeped but never poured. Sunlight filtered through paper windows, creating golden patterns on the worn floor. Hiro stepped inside, brushing dust from his sleeves. In the corner, a small hearth lay cold, yet he sensed a presence. Perhaps it was the memory of the caretaker who had tended this place, or perhaps the path itself had given life to the stillness. He knelt on the tatami, letting his gaze roam over the room. Every detail, the cracked teacups, the faded calligraphy scrolls, the simple arrangement of stones and branches spoke of patience, care, and mindfulness. Each imperfection carried meaning, not a flaw. A voice, soft and steady, seemed to rise from the room itself. Patience, young traveler. Even the leaves must fall before they can nourish the soil. Hiro closed his eyes. He could feel his father's presence intertwined with this gentle teaching. The words were not an order, but an invitation to reflect. He thought of the hurried brush strokes he had forced since his father's death, and the frustration that followed each flawed line. Here, in this quiet space, he began to breathe differently. He traced patterns on a small piece of paper with his fingers, not yet with brush or ink, feeling the texture, imagining the flow of energy. Each moment felt deliberate, alive, and yet free from expectation. Hours passed, though time seemed meaningless. Hiro wrote notes to himself, small sketches of the moss, the beams, the patterns of light on the floor. Slowly, he felt the first stirrings of release, not the release of grief, but of its tension. It could be carried lightly, like a leaf floating on the autumn mist path. As evening approached, the tea house seemed to hum with quiet approval. Hiro stepped outside once more, feeling the mist curling around him, now softer, as though it had been waiting for him to understand this lesson. Life moves gently when one attends with presence and patience. Chapter 3: Falling Leaves, Rising Thoughts. The path grew steeper as Hiro continued his journey. Autumn leaves swirled around him, red, gold, and amber, drifting in the mist like flickering flames. Each step was a reminder of impermanence. Leaves would fall, branches would bend, streams would change course. Yet the forest held continuity, as if life could balance transience with stability. Hiro's mind, once so heavy with doubt, began to echo the rhythm of the falling leaves. Every swirl of color reminded him of his father's advice: do not fear imperfection. The beauty of life is in its impermanence. But even as he tried to accept this, self-doubt lingered. I cannot create what he did. I am not enough. The mist thickened, wrapping the trees and path in soft gray. For a moment, Hiro felt lost. The path seemed endless, the forest vast, and his own heart small. Then, a single leaf, bright red and trembling on a branch above, caught his eye. It fell slowly, landing upon the mist like a small lantern. Hiro realized he had been trying to hold on to control, to force perfection in his work and life, when the true path was to let things flow. He knelt and pressed his hand to the leaf, feeling its delicate texture. In that moment, clarity arose. Acceptance was not surrender. It was present. It was attention. It was harmony with what is, rather than resistance to what is not. With renewed awareness, Hiro stood and continued. He noticed the subtle patterns of mist, the way light filtered through the leaves, and the small streams trickling over stones. Each detail was fleeting, yet each was complete, perfect in its impermanence. By the time he reached a gentle clearing, Hiro's heart felt lighter. The path had begun to teach him not only to observe but to integrate, to let his thoughts rise and fall like the leaves themselves. Carrying the wisdom of patience and impermanence into each step forward. The summit was still distant, but he no longer feared the climb. The autumn mist path had begun to show him its true purpose: reflection, acceptance, and the gentle unfolding of the self. Chapter 4: The Lantern Bridge. Night descended over the autumn mist path, and the forest transformed. A soft glow emerged from a narrow stream beside the path, where hundreds of small lanterns floated gently on the water. Their light reflected in the mist, creating a river of gold and silver that guided Hiro forward. He approached a simple wooden bridge arching over the stream. The lanterns drifted beneath it, their flames dancing in the reflection of the dark water. Hiro paused, feeling a gentle hum in the air, as though the forest itself was alive with silent song. He knelt by the bridge and took a blank lantern from his pack. With careful hands, he wrote a message, not a wish for fame, nor a plea for skill, but a quiet prayer to release his grief, his doubts, and the weight of his father's absence. Setting the lantern onto the stream, Hiro watched it float beneath the bridge. The water carried it smoothly, joining the multitude of other lights. One by one, the lanterns rose slightly, flickering in the mist as if responding to his intent. The bridge seemed to hum with resonance. The mist swirled around him, softening the boundaries of the world. Every step Hiro took felt deliberate, each breath connected to the rhythm of the floating lanterns. He realized the path was teaching him to walk gently, to let go, and to trust the current of life. As he crossed the bridge, the lanterns illuminated the path ahead. The mist was no longer a veil of uncertainty but a companion guiding him toward understanding. Chapter 5: The White Deer. Beyond the bridge, the forest opened into a wide clearing. The mist curled around the trees, but Hiro noticed a figure moving with grace and quiet authority. A white deer, its coat glistening faintly in the lantern light, stepped forward. Its antlers were delicate yet strong, a crown of purity. The deer regarded Hiro calmly. He felt no fear, only a sense of reverence. Without a word, it turned, slowly walking toward the distant summit. Hiro followed, sensing that the deer was more than a creature of flesh. It was a guide, a symbol of wisdom and harmony. The path grew steeper as they ascended. Mist swirled around their feet and danced between the branches. The white deer paused occasionally, looking back to ensure Hiro kept pace. Its presence reminded him of balance, steady, patient, and unhurried, yet with quiet determination. Finally, the deer led him to a small, secluded shrine near the top of the mountain. The shrine was simple, wooden, and surrounded by autumn foliage. Its presence was serene, a place where nature and spirit met. Hiro bowed deeply before it, feeling a warmth of understanding flow through him. The white deer lingered a moment, then disappeared into the mist, leaving Hiro alone with the shrine. In that silence, he realized that the path, the lanterns, and the deer had all been guiding him toward one truth: harmony comes not from perfection, but from mindful presence, gentle action, and connection with the world around him. Hiro sat quietly, breathing deeply, letting the mist and autumn colors fill his heart. For the first time, he felt fully aligned with the rhythm of the path, the forest, and the unfolding journey of his own spirit. Chapter 6: Shadows of the Mind. As Hiro continued along the summit path, the mist thickened, curling around his legs and drifting between the trees like pale smoke. The forest became quieter, even the rustle of leaves seemed muted. In the stillness, shadows emerged not just from the trees, but from within his own mind. Dark forms rose from the mist, twisting like ink in water. They were fears and doubts he had carried for years: the fear of inadequacy, the weight of expectations, the lingering grief over his father's passing. "You will never create as he did," a shadow whispered. "You are not enough," another hissed. Hiro's chest tightened. For a moment, he considered turning back, retreating into comfort rather than facing the darkness. But then he remembered the lanterns on the bridge, the white deer, and the gentle lessons of the autumn mist path. He knelt by a small puddle of water, dipping his hand into its cool surface. The reflection rippled, mingling his image with the swirling mist. "I see you," he said aloud to the shadows. "I do not deny you. You are part of me, but you do not control me." Slowly, he traced patterns in the puddle with his fingers, as if painting with water itself. The shadows shifted, then softened, dissolving into the mist. The weight of fear and self-doubt remained, but it was lighter now, integrated into the flow of his being rather than consuming it. Hiro rose, feeling a sense of clarity he had never known. True harmony was not the absence of darkness, but the embrace of it, allowing it to coexist with light. Chapter 7: The Summit View. At last, the mist began to lift. The path opened to a wide overlook, revealing the valley below. The forest stretched in a riot of autumn colors: red maples, golden ginkgo, and the muted greens of pine and cedar. Streams glimmered like silver threads, and lanterns from the lower path floated faintly in the distance, still glowing as if to welcome him. Hiro stood at the summit, feeling the cool wind on his face and the warmth of sunlight breaking through the clouds. The view was breathtaking, yet not in its grandeur alone. but in its quiet balance, the interplay of colors, shadows, and movement. He realized then that the autumn mist path had led him here not to conquer the mountain, but to see himself reflected in the world. Harmony was in presence, awareness, and acceptance. It was in the gentle embrace of impermanence, the integration of shadow and light, the flowing rhythm of life itself. Hiro took out his sketchbook and brush. He did not try to capture every detail, but instead traced the essence of the scene, the interplay of mist, light, and color. The movement of the leaves, the calm presence of the world. Each stroke was alive, imperfect, yet perfect in its resonance. The summit was not the end of the path, Hiro realized, but a beginning. With each breath, he felt connected to the forest, the mist, the lanterns, the deer, and to his own spirit. The autumn mist path had shown him that harmony was always present, waiting to be recognized and embodied. Chapter 8 Whispers Become Song. The summit was bathed in soft autumn light, the mist now a gentle veil that lingered among the trees. Hiro stood quietly, listening. The wind whispered through the branches, carrying the subtle fragrance of fallen leaves. Even the distant murmur of streams seemed to join in a silent melody. All around him, the forest felt alive, not in motion alone, but in presence. Every leaf, every stone, every beam of light held resonance. Hiro realized the path he had walked, the lantern bridge, the tea house. The mist, the white deer was more than a journey through the forest, it was a journey through himself. He lifted his brush and began to paint on a sheet of paper. The strokes flowed naturally, guided not by desire or fear, but by attention and presence. Shadows merged with light, and imperfections became part of the composition, bringing vitality and depth. The whispers of the mist, the rustle of bamboo, the flickering lanterns all rose into a harmony that seemed to sing with him. He understood now the song of the path was the song of life itself, encompassing loss and joy, impermanence and continuity, shadow and light. Hiro paused, watching his painting come alive with energy. The forest around him seemed to respond, the mist swirling gently as though breathing with the rhythm of his brush. Harmony was no longer a distant ideal, it was here, embodied in every movement, every thought, every sensation. Epilogue: The Path Within. Hiro returned to the village as dawn broke, the first light spilling over the mountains in shades of gold and rose. He carried nothing from the summit except his sketchbook, his brush, and the quiet presence of the autumn mist path within him. In his studio, he began to paint again. The ink and colors moved freely, alive with the rhythm of the forest, the whispers of the mist, and the lessons of the path. Shadows were no longer something to fear, they were part of the composition, part of life. Each stroke carried impermanence, acceptance, and harmony. Villagers came to see his work, some seeking advice, others drawn by the serenity radiating from his paintings. Hiro did not always speak, but his presence and the flow of his brush shared the essence of what he had learned that life. like art, is a path to be walked with mindfulness, presence, and gentle acceptance. Behind his home, he planted a small grove of maple and ginkgo, a tribute to the forest and the path that had transformed him. Each season, the leaves would fall, the mist would rise, and the lanterns would float in festivals, reminders that harmony exists in the fleeting, in the delicate, and in the attentive heart. At night, Hero would sometimes walk the quiet path near the grove, the mist curling around him. The whispers returned, but they no longer troubled him. They were the song of life itself, alive in every rustle, every breath, every stroke of his brush. He smiled, bowing to the path, the forest, the lanterns, and the mist. I carry you within me. I am part of your song. And the world seemed to hum in return, a gentle, endless harmony. Echoes of the morning bell. Prologue: the sound of dawn. The village of Kiyomizu lay nestled between rolling hills and misted valleys. Each morning, before the sun had fully risen, the temple bell resonated through the stillness. Its deep, sonorous tone traveled across the village, echoing in the valleys, brushing against the bamboo groves, and stirring the hearts of those who listened. Akio rose before the first light, his body stiff from sleep, yet his mind restless. As a monk in training, he had spent years learning the ways of the temple, the rituals, the prayers, and the art of discipline. But lately, doubt had crept into his heart. Am I truly walking the right path? Can I find peace, or am I merely chasing an illusion of perfection? The bell tolled again, long and low. Its echo filled the courtyard and climbed the hills. Akio stepped outside, feeling the cold touch of morning mist on his skin. The sound seemed to linger, wrapping around him like a shroud and yet lifting him gently. He walked barefoot across the wet stone path, each footfall echoing softly, matching the rhythm of the bell. The dew glistened on the moss-covered stones, and the air carried the scent of pine and wet earth. Every breath he took seemed to carry the weight of his worries, yet each exhale released a fragment of doubt. The villagers remained asleep, their roofs glinting faintly under the first hints of dawn. Only the bell, the mist, and Akio's quiet footsteps filled the morning. He paused to bow before the temple, feeling its wooden beams pulse with the echo of the ringing bell. In that moment, he understood that the bell was more than a signal for prayer. It was a guide, a teacher, a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, between the fleeting moment and eternity. And he, like the bell's sound, must learn to carry both weight and clarity within himself. Chapter 1: The First Echo. Akio walked along the stone path, the temple bell's echo fading and returning, rolling over the hills in soft waves. The courtyard was shrouded in mist, each column of wood and every stone lantern softened by the gray veil. He reached the edge of the main garden, where a pond mirrored the pale sky. Koi swam lazily beneath the surface, their movements gentle, deliberate, and unhindered. Akio knelt by the water's edge, tracing patterns in the mist rising from the pond. The reflection of the bell tower shimmered alongside his own, a fusion of stone, sky, and spirit. A soft wind stirred the bamboo at the garden's edge. The leaves whispered together, rustling in rhythm with the bell's fading tones. Akio inhaled deeply. He had learned to listen to the bell each morning, but today, for the first time, he felt as though it was speaking directly to him. Do not force your mind. Do not cling to expectations. Let the sound teach you. He closed his eyes, letting the morning mist wrap around him. Thoughts of failure, of inadequacy, and of his father's expectations arose. Yet he allowed them to pass without grasping them. He focused on the simple sensation of the cold stone beneath his knees, the brush of wind across his skin, and the subtle echo of the bell. Hours seemed to stretch and fold in on themselves. Akio stood and walked toward the bamboo grove behind the temple. Each step was mindful, measured, aware. The bell's echo followed him, fading and returning, like the rhythm of his own breath. Through the grove, the mist thickened. Sunlight pierced faintly through the tall stalks, illuminating patterns of dew that clung to leaves like scattered jewels. Akio paused frequently, observing the dance of light and shadow, the small movements of nature that he had once overlooked in his rush to perfection. He realized that the bell's lesson was not a command, but an invitation. To walk the path with awareness, to move through life with patience and presence, to observe without judgment. Each echo was a reminder that clarity comes not from striving, but from listening. As he emerged from the bamboo grove, Akio reached a small clearing where an old tea house stood quietly among the trees. Its wooden beams were softened by time, its paper windows weathered yet intact. He approached cautiously, feeling that this place, too, held wisdom waiting to be revealed. The morning bell rang once more, a single, resounding note. The echo rolled across the courtyard, through the trees, and over the hills. Akio bowed deeply, listening as the sound faded into the mist. For the first time, he felt a flicker of understanding. The bell's echo was not only in the air, it was inside him. His journey had begun. Chapter 2: Shadows of the Courtyard. The temple courtyard was quiet, the morning mist lingering over stone paths and moss-covered lanterns. Akio walked slowly, his bare feet pressing softly against the cool stones. The bell's echoes had faded into the distance, but their resonance remained in his chest, a steady reminder of presence. He noticed the imperfections around him, cracks in the wooden beams of the bell tower, moss creeping along the stones, faded calligraphy on old scrolls displayed in the main hall. Each flaw carried its own beauty, a subtle reminder that time leaves marks and that impermanence itself is a form of harmony. Akio knelt beside a stone basin filled with water. Tiny ripples formed as droplets fell from the bamboo ladle above. He watched the circles expand and merge, realizing that life, too, moved in waves interconnected and ever-changing. His doubts, like ripples, could be observed without resistance, allowed to flow and fade naturally. A soft voice seemed to arise from the courtyard itself. See the imperfection, see the truth. Accept what is, and you will find peace. Akio closed his eyes, feeling the words as a gentle wind. He recalled his master's teachings, which emphasized patience, observation, and mindful presence. Yet it was one thing to hear such words in theory, another to experience them in the living, breathing temple. Here, in the quiet of the courtyard, Akio felt the lesson take root. Hours passed in silence. Akio traced patterns in the sand of the meditation garden, noticing the play of light and shadow on each raked line. The imperfections, the uneven strokes, the way leaves occasionally fell across the sand did not diminish the beauty, rather, they enhanced it, giving life and movement to the scene. By the time he rose, the mist had begun to thin, revealing more of the courtyard's structure. The bell tower seemed less imposing, more a part of the living temple, integrated with the natural cycles of dawn, mist, and sunlight. Akio felt a growing clarity. Impermanence was not something to fear, but a guide to deeper understanding. Chapter 3: The Bamboo Grove. Behind the temple, a grove of bamboo swayed gently in the morning breeze. Light filtered through the tall stalks, creating lines and patterns that danced across the forest floor. Akio stepped into the grove, feeling the cool, shaded air wrap around him. An old caretaker appeared among the bamboo. His robes were simple, and his movements deliberate. Though silent at first, his presence carried authority and calm. The caretaker gestured to the grove. "Bamboo bends in the wind, but it does not break. The same is true of the mind," he said softly. Akio observed the stalks sway, their flexibility allowing them to endure storms. He thought of his own struggles, the pressure to meet expectations, the weight of self-doubt, and realized he had been rigid, resisting the natural flow of life. The caretaker handed him a small brush and a piece of paper. "Do not force the strokes. Let them flow, like the wind among the bamboo." Hiro knelt and dipped the brush in ink. At first, the strokes were tentative, cautious. But as he continued, he allowed the motion of his hand to follow the rhythm of the grove, the rise and fall of stalks, the whispers of leaves in the wind, the light filtering through the mist. Gradually, the brush moved freely. Imperfections arose, but they felt alive, full of energy. Each line carried both shadow and light, hesitation and confidence, weakness and strength. Akio realized that art, like life, need not be perfect to be whole. The old caretaker watched silently, then nodded. The mind must learn the bamboo's lesson. To endure, to yield, to flow without losing essence, that is harmony. Akio stayed in the grove for hours, letting the bamboo's rhythm guide him. By the time he returned to the temple grounds, his heart felt lighter, his spirit steadier. The bell's echoes seemed closer now, resonating within him, connecting the courtyard, the bamboo, and the rhythm of his own breath into a unified harmony. Chapter 4: The Garden of Lanterns. Night fell over the temple grounds, and the garden beyond the courtyard transformed. Hundreds of lanterns were lit, their soft glow reflecting in the pond and casting delicate shadows among the stones and bamboo. The mist swirled around the lanterns, diffusing their light like a gentle veil, creating a world suspended between dream and reality. Akio walked slowly along the stone path, the sound of his footsteps softened by the evening quiet. Each lantern seemed to pulse with life, as if echoing the rhythm of his own heartbeat. He reached into his bag and retrieved a small paper lantern. Holding it carefully, he wrote the names of his ancestors, a prayer for guidance, and an expression of gratitude for his father and master. When he set the lantern on the water, it floated gracefully among countless others. The flickering light danced across the mist, illuminating the path ahead in a golden haze. Akio watched in silence, feeling the tension of doubt and fear dissolve like dew in morning sunlight. The sound of the temple bell reached him faintly across the garden. Its echo merged with the lantern's glow, creating a harmony that resonated in the depths of his heart. He understood now the lanterns were not merely decoration, and the bell not merely a signal they were teachers. Each offered a lesson in letting go, in gratitude, and in the quiet power of presence. Hours passed in serene observation. Akio sat by the pond, letting the reflections ripple in the water, merging lantern light, mist, and shadow. He realized that his own heart could mirror the lantern's bright, alive, and unburdened by what had been. Chapter 5: The White Crane. Beyond the garden, near a small bamboo-lined pond, Akio noticed a movement. A white crane stepped gracefully from the reeds. Its feathers gleamed faintly under the lantern's glow, and its gaze held calm authority. The crane regarded Akio silently, then turned and walked slowly toward a hidden path leading deeper into the temple forest. Akio followed, instinctively understanding that this creature was more than a bird. It symbolized clarity, purity, and the harmony that arises when one moves attentively through life. The crane's path led him to a small shrine tucked beneath the tallest bamboo stalks. The shrine was simple, yet it radiated serenity. Akio knelt before it, feeling the connection between himself, the forest, and the crane. For a long moment, he simply breathed, letting the presence of the bird and the quiet power of the shrine sink into his awareness. He realized that the crane, like the morning bell and the lanterns, was a messenger. A reminder that observation and mindfulness reveal the harmony within all things. The crane's stillness taught him patience, its movement, the gentle rhythm of flow. As the bird lifted into the night sky, Akio remained in the shrine, watching its graceful ascent. His heart was no longer burdened with tension or doubt. He understood that harmony is not a destination, but a practice, an integration of presence, awareness, and connection with all that surrounds him. Chapter 6: Lessons in Silence. The temple grounds were bathed in the soft glow of the rising sun. Akio sat beneath the bell tower, his legs crossed and hands resting lightly on his knees. The morning bell had not yet tolled, yet he felt its presence in the quiet rhythm of his breath. Shadows of doubt and impatience began to rise in his mind, the fear of failure, the desire to meet expectations, the memory of past mistakes. At first, he resisted them, trying to push them away. But the lessons of the courtyard, the bamboo grove, the lantern garden, and the white crane returned to him. He allowed the shadows to exist, observing them without judgment. Each thought, each worry, passed through his awareness like mist over the pond, touching him but leaving no permanent mark. The mind, he whispered, is like water. Stillness reveals depth, turbulence teaches resilience. He closed his eyes, letting the silence expand. The faint rustle of bamboo, the distant calls of birds, the subtle vibrations of the bell tower all merged into a single, flowing harmony. His doubts did not vanish, but they became threads in the larger fabric of his being. Akio lifted his brush and ink, tracing patterns on paper. Each stroke was deliberate yet free, a reflection of inner presence rather than an attempt at perfection. Shadows and light intertwined, creating balance. He understood now that harmony is not the absence of difficulty, but the integration of all things, the bright and the dark. The fleeting and the enduring, the silent and the echoing. Chapter 7 Echoes become song. The temple bell rang with a profound clarity, the sound rolling across the village and mountains. Akio stood, listening fully, letting the echoes wash over him. This time, he did not merely hear the bell, he felt it resonate within every fiber of his being. The morning mist drifted gently through the courtyard and over the garden, merging with the golden light of lanterns still lingering from the night before. The bamboo grove swayed softly, leaves rustling in gentle response. Everything, the bell, the lanterns, the crane, the grove, and his own breath became a single, unified harmony. Akio lifted his brush and painted once more. The strokes flowed naturally, alive with the rhythm of the forest, the echoes of the bell, and the lessons of the path he had walked. Each line carried impermanence, awareness, and presence. Shadows were not erased but integrated, creating depth and balance. For the first time, he understood fully the echo of the morning bell is not simply a sound. It is a living presence, a teacher, a reminder that life is to be walked mindfully, with acceptance, attention, and harmony. He closed his eyes, feeling the song of the bell, the rustle of leaves, and the gentle flow of life within him. All echoes became one, transforming into a melody of peace and understanding. Epilogue: The bell within. Akio returned to the village as the first light of dawn touched the rooftops. The temple bell rang gently, echoing across the valley. He paused to listen, feeling the resonance not only in the air, but in his own chest, in the very rhythm of his heart. His daily routines, cleaning the temple, tending the garden, and practicing calligraphy, felt different now. Each action, no matter how simple, carried presence, awareness, and grace. The echoes of the morning bell had become part of him, guiding his movements, shaping his thoughts, and nurturing his spirit. In his study, Akio picked up his brush and began to paint. The strokes flowed naturally, carrying not only form, but life. Shadows and light intertwined, imperfections were embraced, and every line reflected the impermanence and harmony of the world he had learned to see. His art was no longer a pursuit of perfection, it was an expression of being fully present, fully alive. Villagers came often, some to observe, others seeking counsel. Akio did not always speak, but his calm presence, his mindful actions, and the serene flow of his art spoke volumes. He shared the lessons of the bell, the bamboo, the lanterns, and the crane not as doctrine, but as lived experience. Behind the temple, he planted a small grove of bamboo and a cherry tree. In spring, the blossoms would fall like snow, and in autumn, the leaves would drift on the wind. Lanterns were lit during festivals, carrying prayers and gratitude. The temple grounds became a living testament to the harmony he had found, a reflection of the path he had walked. At night, Akio sometimes returned to the courtyard. The morning bell had long ceased for the day, yet he could still hear its echo within him. The mist would rise softly from the garden, and the bamboo leaves whispered with gentle rhythm. He bowed quietly to the bell, the trees, the lanterns, and the stars. I carry you within me. I am part of your song. I am at peace. And in the silence, the village, the temple, and the mountains seemed to breathe with him, a gentle, endless harmony. The quiet song of the falling leaves. Prologue: Autumn's first whisper. The first leaves of autumn drifted lazily from the branches, turning the mountain village of Takayama into a canvas of red, gold, and amber. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and pine. Each leaf that fell seemed to murmur a quiet song, as if telling stories of time, change, and impermanence. Sora walked along the narrow path that led through the village and into the forest. His steps were light, careful, and measured. He had been wandering for days, searching for inspiration that had long eluded him. Since the passing of his grandmother, a gentle woman who had taught him the rhythms of nature, his art felt empty, disconnected, and hollow. As he entered the forest, the leaves rustled beneath his feet, and a gentle wind stirred the branches above. The sound was faint, but it spoke to him. "Listen," it seemed to say. "The world moves, the leaves fall, and yet there is a song here for those who hear." Sora paused and closed his eyes. The chill of autumn air touched his face. The scent of moss and fallen leaves filled his senses. And he realized that life was passing, moment by moment, like the leaves themselves. Each leaf, though small and fleeting, held a quiet beauty, a presence that demanded attention if one truly wished to see. He took a deep breath, letting the world settle around him. The song of the leaves was not loud or commanding, it was subtle, patient, and continuous. It required stillness, awareness, and an open heart to hear. Sora knew that if he could learn to listen, he might find not only inspiration for his art, but also a way to reconcile his own restless spirit with the rhythm of life. Chapter 1: The Path Among Red Leaves. The forest path was covered with a thick layer of fallen leaves, their colors vivid against the muted browns and greens of the earth. Sora walked slowly, letting each footfall stir the leaves in gentle waves. The path twisted and turned, winding upward through the forest, following the natural curve of the hills. He noticed small details that he had often overlooked, the way sunlight glimmered on a single dewdrop clinging to a leaf. The intricate patterns of veins on the fallen leaves, and the faint sound of a stream flowing somewhere just out of sight. These details, he realized, were the quiet lessons of the forest: impermanence, attention, and harmony. A sudden gust of wind sent a flurry of red and gold leaves swirling around him. They danced in the air, twisting and turning before settling gently onto the path. Sora knelt and allowed one leaf to rest on his palm. He traced its edges with his finger, marveling at the delicate balance of form and fragility. "Everything is transient," he whispered. "And yet, in this transience, there is profound beauty." He continued walking, following the path deeper into the forest. The canopy above grew thicker, filtering the sunlight into soft, shifting patterns on the ground. The rustling of leaves created a quiet melody, punctuated by distant bird calls and the occasional snap of a branch underfoot. Sora's mind began to settle, his worries and doubts fading with each step. He thought of his grandmother and her gentle advice: observe, but do not cling. Move with the world, not against it. He realized that his search for inspiration had been too forceful, too eager to grasp beauty rather than allowing it to reveal itself naturally. The path opened into a small clearing. At its center stood a forgotten stone bench, moss-covered and weathered by time. Nearby, a thin stream meandered quietly, reflecting the reds and golds of the surrounding trees. Sora sat, letting the forest's rhythm enter his body. The leaves whispered around him, the water murmured, and he felt a quiet resonance within his own heart. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of presence, a stillness that was alive, gentle, and continuous. The song of the falling leaves, subtle and unassuming, began to fill the space inside him. It was not just a melody for the eyes, but for the heart, a quiet guide toward awareness and harmony. Sora opened his sketchbook and began to draw, not aiming for perfection, but letting the shapes, shadows, and colors flow naturally. Each stroke echoed the rhythm of the forest, imperfect yet alive, fleeting yet eternal in its essence. The forest seemed to lean closer, listening, as if approving the quiet song of his brush in harmony with the quiet song of the leaves. Chapter 2: The Forgotten Garden. Beyond the clearing, Sora discovered a hidden garden, tucked behind an old wooden gate half covered with ivy. The garden was overgrown, moss spreading across stone lanterns and worn pathways. Fallen leaves carpeted the ground, creating a tapestry of red, gold, and amber. It was as if time had paused here, allowing nature to reclaim the space gently. Sora stepped carefully along the path, brushing aside branches and letting the crunch of leaves guide him. At the center of the garden stood a small tea pavilion, its paper windows weathered and walls softened by age. Despite its neglect, there was a quiet elegance to the structure, a subtle beauty born from imperfection and patience. An elderly gardener appeared from the shadows, his face serene and his movements deliberate. He wore simple robes, and his hands were roughened by years of tending the earth. "Welcome, traveler," the gardener said softly. "This garden has been waiting for someone who will notice it, not change it. Will you sit?" Sora nodded and followed him to the pavilion. Inside, the air smelled faintly of damp wood and earth. The gardener handed him a small brush and a piece of paper. "Do not force the strokes," he said. "Let your hand follow what you see, what you feel. The garden teaches patience, observation, and humility. The leaves fall, the moss grows, the stones endure. Learn from them." Sora began to draw. At first, his strokes were hesitant, trying to capture every detail precisely. But the garden demanded something different: awareness, flow, and acceptance. Slowly, he let go of control. The brush moved freely, imperfect yet alive, tracing the arc of a falling leaf, the curve of a moss-covered stone, and the dance of sunlight on a faded wall. Hours passed unnoticed. The sound of the wind through the trees, the soft rustle of leaves, and the distant call of a bird filled the silence. Sora realized that beauty does not lie in permanence or perfection, but in the delicate balance of what is fleeting, subtle, and harmonious. When he finally stood, the garden seemed transformed not by him, but through him. He had learned that to witness life fully, one must observe with patience, accept impermanence, and honor the quiet song of existence. Chapter 3: The Bamboo Corridor. The path led Sora next to a dense bamboo grove, tall stalks swaying gracefully in the autumn breeze. Light filtered through the leaves, casting moving patterns of shadow and gold upon the forest floor. The sound of rustling bamboo created a gentle melody, as though the grove itself were speaking to him. As he entered, a sense of serenity enveloped him. The bamboo bent and swayed without breaking, a lesson in flexibility and resilience. Sora felt the same rigidity in his own heart: the resistance to change, the lingering regrets, the fear of failure. He realized he had been standing stiff against the winds of life, trying to force perfection instead of moving with its rhythm. He walked slowly, letting the bamboo guide his movements. Each step became mindful, deliberate, and fluid. He noticed the small creatures hiding in the undergrowth, the play of sunlight on leaves, and the faint aroma of damp earth and moss. In the heart of the grove, he found a narrow stream. He knelt by the water and traced the ripples with his fingers. The reflections of the bamboo danced alongside his own. For the first time, he saw himself not as separate from the forest, but as part of its rhythm, a living note in the quiet song of the falling leaves. Sora closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The grove seemed to embrace him, teaching patience, balance, and humility. He realized that life, like the bamboo, requires flexibility and surrender to its natural flow. To resist is to break, to yield is to endure. He rose and continued along the path, feeling lighter, more connected, and attuned to the subtle song that surrounded him. The leaves still fell gently around him, each one a whisper, each one a reminder that harmony arises not from control, but from awareness and acceptance. Chapter 4: Lanterns on the Stream. As evening fell, Sora followed a narrow path to a small stream winding through the forest. Mist floated lightly over the water, and hundreds of paper lanterns had been set afloat, their flickering lights reflecting in the gentle current. The scene was quiet, yet alive with subtle energy, a dance of light and shadow, stillness and motion. Sora knelt by the stream and took a lantern from his pack. He wrote on it a simple message: gratitude for the lessons he had learned, a wish for clarity, and a quiet farewell to the lingering grief that had shadowed his heart. Carefully, he placed the lantern on the water, watching as it floated among the others. The lanterns drifted downstream, merging with the soft glow of the forest. The rustling of leaves, the faint murmur of the stream, and the gentle movement of the lanterns created a melody that seemed to resonate inside Sora himself. He realized that letting go did not mean forgetting, it meant integrating, allowing his experiences to flow naturally and harmoniously with the rhythm of life. Hours passed as he observed the lanterns, each one a tiny flame of presence and awareness. Sora felt a growing sense of calm, the quiet song of the leaves and lanterns weaving into a harmony that filled the forest, the stream, and his own heart. Chapter 5: The White Fox. Near the stream's bend, Sora noticed a figure moving gracefully among the shadows. A white fox, its fur shimmering in the lantern light, paused to regard him. Its eyes were calm, wise, and unafraid. The fox moved slowly, turning back occasionally as if beckoning Sora to follow. He understood instinctively that this was not an ordinary creature. Its presence symbolized intuition, clarity, and the quiet guidance of the natural world. Sora followed the fox along a hidden path leading deeper into the forest. They arrived at a small shrine, secluded among moss-covered stones and bamboo stalks. The fox lingered briefly, then vanished silently into the mist. Sora knelt before the shrine, breathing deeply and letting the tranquility settle over him. The forest was alive with subtle sounds: the rustle of leaves, the distant ripple of the stream, and the faint echo of lantern light on water. He realized that the fox, like the lanterns and the bamboo grove, was a teacher. It had shown him the value of observation, patience, and quiet awareness. Its appearance reminded him that wisdom often comes in subtle forms, through gentle guidance rather than overt instruction. Sora rose, feeling his heart lighter and his mind clearer. He continued along the forest path, aware of the faint song of falling leaves around him, each note a reminder of impermanence, harmony, and the beauty of mindful presence. Chapter 6: Shadows and Reflection. The forest thickened as Sora climbed a gentle ridge, mist curling around the trees and the fallen leaves. Shadows of past regrets and fears seemed to rise from the mist itself, moments he had wished to undo, opportunities he had missed, and doubts about his path as an artist and a seeker of harmony. At first, he felt the familiar tension in his chest. The shadows whispered that he was not enough, that he had failed, that the beauty he sought could never truly be captured. But then he remembered the lanterns floating on the stream, the wisdom of the bamboo grove, and the guidance of the white fox. He knelt by a small puddle, tracing the ripples with his finger. The reflection of the trees merged with his own image. Slowly, Sora understood that the shadows were not enemies but companions integral to his journey. Accepting them did not weaken him, it allowed him to move forward with clarity. Breathing deeply, he let the mist and shadows intertwine with his awareness. The forest's rhythm, the rustle of leaves, and the echo of distant lantern light all merged into a single quiet harmony. His doubts softened, becoming threads in a larger tapestry rather than chains that bound him. Sora rose, feeling a profound lightness. Shadows and reflection had taught him that impermanence includes both joy and sorrow, and that harmony comes not from avoidance, but from integration. Chapter 7: The Summit of Falling Leaves. At last, Sora reached the summit of the ridge. The mist lifted, revealing the forest in full autumn splendor, fiery reds, golden yellows, and deep amber stretching as far as the eye could see. Each leaf, caught in a gentle breeze, drifted slowly downward, composing a quiet, endless song. He stood still, feeling the rhythm of the forest, the whisper of the wind, and the soft fall of the leaves. The melody was subtle, fleeting, yet eternal in its essence. Sora realized that the forest had been teaching him all along. Beauty exists in impermanence. Clarity comes from mindful observation, and harmony arises through presence. He took out his sketchbook and began to draw. Each stroke flowed naturally, imperfect yet alive, capturing not the form alone, but the spirit of the moment, the dance of leaves, the shifting light, the whisper of the wind. His brush became an extension of the forest's rhythm, each movement a note in the quiet song that surrounded him. Sora closed his eyes, letting the scene settle into his heart. He understood now that life itself is a quiet song of falling leaves, fleeting and delicate, yet full of resonance. Each moment, no matter how small, is complete in itself, a harmony of impermanence, awareness, and gentle presence. Epilogue: The Leaves Within. Sora returned to the village at dawn, the mountain mist curling gently through the streets and over the rooftops. The forest behind him was alive with the faint rustle of falling leaves, each one a whisper of the lessons he had learned: impermanence, patience, presence, and harmony. His daily routines painting, sketching, and observing the world around him had changed profoundly. Each brushstroke now flowed naturally, alive with the rhythm of the forest, the whispers of the wind, and the quiet song of the leaves. Imperfections were no longer distractions, they were part of the beauty, part of the living moment. Villagers came to admire his work. Some sought advice, others simply wished to share in the quiet peace that radiated from his presence. Sora spoke little, but his art and demeanor reflected the lessons he had learned that life, like the falling leaves, is fleeting and fragile, yet full of resonance and harmony when observed with mindful attention. Behind his home, he planted a grove of maple and ginkgo, small reminders of the forest he had walked and the lessons it had imparted. Each season, the leaves would fall, drifting on the wind, creating a living tapestry of impermanence and beauty. Lanterns were occasionally floated on a nearby stream, carrying gratitude, prayers, and the quiet song of Sora's heart into the world. At night, Sora often walked through the village and the forest path, listening to the rustle of leaves in the wind. The quiet song that had guided him on his journey now resided within him, a continuous melody of presence, acceptance, and inner peace. He paused under a maple tree, watching leaves descend softly to the ground. Bending slightly, he whispered a bow to the forest, the wind, the lanterns, and the fleeting moment itself. I carry you within me. I am part of your song. I am at peace. And the world seemed to answer, a gentle harmony resonating through the trees, the stream, and the falling leaves, a quiet song that would never end.